Chapter 4. The wind was different here, muted and stale, heavy with the scent of animals. It flowed through the narrow alley behind the shelter, brushing against Leo's face as he crouched low in the shadows. Every instinct in his body told him to move, to act, to do something. But he stayed still, his sharp eyes fixed on the building in front of him. The Meadowhaven Animal Shelter was unassuming, its chipped paint and faded sign blending into the rows of rundown buildings around it. Most people wouldn't have given it a second glance. But Leo's senses picked up the subtle signs of danger. The faint but acrid scent of fear that lingered in the air. The muffled voices coming from within, tense and hurried. Sophia was inside. He had followed her here once before, just to watch, to learn. She spent her days feeding the animals, cleaning cages, and soothing the frightened strays that were brought in. She was gentle with them, her voice soft and patient, her touch careful. The animals trusted her, and Leo could see why. There was something about her that made people, and creatures, feel safe. But tonight something was wrong. The shelter was supposed to be closed by now. The lights were dim, the street outside empty. But Leo had seen her enter. Her steps hurried, her expression tight with worry. She hadn't noticed him trailing her from the park, his movements silent and precise. She never noticed him, and that was how he wanted it. Watching her from the shadows was safer, for both of them. A low growl rose in his throat as he caught the sound of raised voices. He moved closer, his body low and fluid, like a predator stalking its prey. The back door of the shelter was slightly ajar, and through the crack, he could hear the conversation more clearly. The threat, "You're in over your head, Sophia." The voice was male, cold and sharp. It made Leo's hackles rise. "I told you, I don't know anything." Sophia's voice was strained, bordering on panic. "I just work here. I take care of the animals, that's all." A second male voice joined in, this one deeper and more menacing. "That's not what we heard. You've been asking questions, poking your nose where it doesn't belong." "I wasn't," she paused, her voice trembling. "I wasn't asking questions about you. I just wanted to know why some of the animals were disappearing. That's all." The first man laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "And you thought we wouldn't notice?" Leo's fist clenched. He didn't understand everything they were saying, but he understood enough. They were threatening her. They were predators, circling her like vultures, and she was defenseless. The instinct to protect Leo didn't think. He moved. The door creaked as he pushed it open, the sound loud in the tense silence. The men turned to look at him, their eyes narrowing in confusion. Sophia gasped, her face pale. "Leo?" she whispered. He didn't respond. His attention was locked on the two men, his body coiled and ready. They were taller than him, broader, their postures confident. But Leo didn't feel fear. He felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, the primal energy that surged through his veins in moments like this. "Who the hell are you?" the first man demanded, stepping forward. Leo didn't answer. His eyes flicked to Sophia, who was standing frozen by the wall, her hands trembling. "Go," he said, his voice low and steady. "Leave." "What?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Go." The second man laughed, a sound that grated against Leo's nerves. "You've got some nerve, kid. Do you even know who you're messing with?" Leo's gaze snapped back to him, his eyes narrowing. He didn't need to know who they were. He only needed to know how to take them down. The fight. The first man lunged at him, his movements clumsy and slow compared to what Leo was used to. He sidestepped easily, his body twisting with a fluid grace. His fist connected with the man's ribs, a sharp, precise blow that sent him stumbling back with a grunt of pain. The second man cursed, pulling a knife from his pocket. The blade gleamed under the flickering light, but Leo didn't falter. He moved closer, his steps deliberate and controlled. The man swung the knife, but Leo was faster. He ducked under the arc of the blade, his hand shooting out to grab the man's wrist. With a swift, brutal motion, he twisted, forcing the knife to clatter to the floor. The man cried out, his knees buckling, as Leo's other hand struck his throat. He collapsed, gasping for air, his face contorted in pain. The first man was on his feet again, his expression a mix of anger and fear. He hesitated, his eyes darting between Leo and his fallen companion. For a moment, it looked like he might attack again. But then he turned and ran, his footsteps echoing down the alley. Leo stood over the second man, his chest heaving. The hunger was there, sharp and insistent, urging him to finish it, to strike again, to make sure the threat was gone. But then he heard her voice, "Leo, stop." He turned to see Sophia standing behind him, her eyes wide with shock and fear. She looked at him like she didn't recognize him, like he was something wild and dangerous. And maybe he was. The fallout, they didn't speak as they left the shelter. Sophia didn't ask him where he had come from or why he had been there. She didn't ask him how he had taken down two grown men with nothing but his bare hands. She just walked, her arms wrapped tightly around herself, her gaze fixed on the ground. Leo followed her, his steps silent. He didn't know what to say. He didn't even know if there was anything he could say. He had acted on instinct, driven by the need to protect her. But now, seeing the way she looked at him, he wondered if he had made a mistake. When they reached her apartment, she finally stopped. She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "Thank you," she said quietly. He nodded, unsure of how to respond. She hesitated, her eyes searching his face. "Who are you, Leo? Really?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. The words wouldn't come. She sighed, rubbing a hand over her face. "I don't know what's going on, but I think I need some time to figure it out." Her words stung, though he didn't know why. He nodded again, stepping back into the shadows. "Good night, Sophia," he said softly. And then he was gone. The hunger grows. That night, Leo couldn't sleep. The hunger was worse than ever, a gnawing ache that refused to be ignored. He paced his apartment, his movements restless and agitated. The cats watched him from the corners, their eyes wide and wary. He didn't blame Sophia for pulling away. She had seen something in him, something he tried so hard to hide. He wasn't human, not fully. No matter how much he tried to blend in, to live in their world, he would always be an outsider. But he couldn't stay away from her. She was in danger, and he couldn't ignore that. The men from the shelter wouldn't just disappear. They would come back, and next time, they might not stop at threats. He had to protect her, even if it meant losing himself. A new threat. The next morning, Leo returned to the park, hoping to see her. But instead, he found someone else waiting for him. A man in a dark suit stood by the pond, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. He smiled when he saw Leo, though the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Leo," he said, his voice smooth, "we need to talk." Leo tensed, his instincts flaring. The man's scent was wrong, too clean, too controlled. He didn't belong here. "Who are you, Leo asked, his voice low. The man's smile widened. "Just someone who's been watching you. You've made quite the impression, you know. A boy raised by lions, fighting bears, taking down criminals. You're a fascinating subject." Leo's hands clenched into fists. "What do you want?" The man's expression turned serious. "I want to help you, Leo. You don't belong in this world. Not the way you are now, but I can change that. I can give you a purpose." Leo's eyes narrowed. "I don't need your help." The man tilted his head, his smile returning. "We'll see about that." And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving Leo standing by the pond, his mind racing. Into chapter 4.